I'm Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Bauble Ornament Wiggle Trivet. This is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com, and as you can see, it is a bright and colorful way to add some interest and practicality to your holiday table. I used Lily Sugar and Cream, which is 100% cotton, which is so important when you're making a hot pad or a trivet or anything that might come in contact with really hot dishes, as acrylic can melt. So here we have the trivet itself that we'll be making today. As I mentioned, I use Lily Sugar and Cream. You use almost a full skein of the main color, but then just a little bit of the other colors. And of course, you can use whichever colors you like. You'll also need a USH 5mm crochet hook. This one is a Susan Bates twist and lock, and your standard crochet supplies: scissors, a yarn needle, and in this case, you'll definitely want to have a few stitch markers handy. Let's take a closer look at the Bauble Ornament Wiggle Trivet. The Bauble Ornament Wiggle Trivet starts out, like most wiggle patterns, with a mesh. You can see it here from the back a little bit. There is a mesh worked right here, and then from the right side, we add all these wiggles. Those wiggles themselves are basically just post stitches, but because we work a bunch around each post, they don't lay flat. They stand up tall, giving us this great thick squishiness that's perfect for keeping our table safe from all those hot dishes. So we make the mesh, then we add the wiggles. First we add the white ones, and then we fill in with the blue, or again, whatever color you're using. Finally, I added this great little topper to make it look a little bit more like an ornament, and it gives us this great hanging loop, so you can actually hang your trivet when it's not in use on the table. So let's go ahead and make a Bauble Ornament Wiggle Trivet together. To begin our wiggle trivet, we're going to start with a magic circle. So I'm going to come in about 6 or 7 inches or so with our yarn and go over my non-hook forefinger twice towards me, just like that. Then I'm going to insert my hook under both of those loops, grab the one that's furthest back, and pull it just under the edge of the other one. You can see I'm holding onto that tail here with my thumb. I'm then going to yarn over and pull that loop through. This sort of locks my magic circle together. Then I'm going to chain 1 and work 6 single crochets into the ring. When I go into the ring, I want to make sure that I go under both of those loops, the one that's still going around my finger here, and the tail end here that you can see is cut. This will allow us to pull the center of that magic circle really nice and tight. So there's 1 single crochet, and with that, I can pull my finger out because that stitch will help hold it open. So we go ahead and put in 5 more. So there's 2 single crochets, 3, 4, there we go, 5, and 6. Then we're just going to go ahead and pull on that tail end, and you can see how that closes that circle right on up. There we go. You can go ahead and give that a nice strong tug. Lily Sugar and Cream is a really wonderfully strong yarn, so you can pull on that pretty well. Then to finish up round 1, we simply want to put a slip stitch in that first single crochet we made. So we'll just wiggle our hook on in there and pull it through for a slip stitch. And there, we've got round 1 of our mesh. For round 2, you might want to bring one of your stitch markers in. We're going to start with the chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1. So what I like to do is go ahead and put my stitch marker in that 3rd chain that I made to mark the top of the double crochet, so that when I come back around, I'll know right where to join to. There we go. So now we can kind of see that's a double crochet and a chain 1. Then we're going to double crochet again in that same stitch, the first stitch of round 1. Bring our yarn around there so we don't accidentally wrap around our stitch itself. And there we go. Then we begin the repeat that's going to take us almost all the way around. Our repeat goes chain 1, then in the next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet again in that same stitch. And that's the repeat. Start again. Chain 1, then in the next stitch, These are kind of tight little stitches, but that's kind of what we want out of our mesh here. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. So that is the repeat. We repeat all the way around until we work into that last stitch. So one more time, that repeat is chain 1, then in the next stitch, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Essentially, you want to have 2 double crochets worked into each stitch and a chain 1 in between each of those double crochets. So continue on around, and I'll see you at the end of round 2. After you've finished that last repeat, we need to make sure to do one more chain 1, and then we can join with a slip stitch to the top of that double crochet. If the stitch marker is in the way at this point, it's fine to go ahead and just take it out, and we can set that aside for the next round. There we are, and that is what it should look like at the end of round 2, with 12 double crochets and a chain 1 in between each of those double crochets. Rounds 3 through 7 of our mesh all begin the same way, with a chain 4 where that third chain counts as our top of our first double crochet there. So I went ahead and marked that stitch again. Now we're going to double crochet in that same stitch, so the same stitch we joined to, our first stitch there. There we go. Sometimes hard to work into those stitches we've slip stitched into. There we go. And then we are going to chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're ready to begin the repeat that will take us the rest of the way around round 3, beginning with the asterisk in the written pattern. We start with a chain 1, and then we double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the next stitch. So we come right to that double crochet, we double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, and then we chain 1 again. There we go. And double crochet in the next stitch. And that's our repeat. Let's do that together one more time. We chain 1, then we double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet all in this next stitch. We're skipping over those chain 1s and those chain 1 spaces. Then we chain 1 again and double crochet in the next stitch. So we repeat that all the way around. I'll see you as we get to the end of round 3. So here we are at the end of round 3. We finished our last repeat, but we want to make sure to always chain 1 before we join to that third chain of that starting chain 4, the top of the double crochet. We always have a chain 1 in between our double crochet stitches, but at the end of round 3, you should have a total of 18 double crochets. Round 4 starts again with a chain 4 where we mark that third chain for the top of our double crochet. Then we double crochet again in that first stitch. There we go. Then we chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch twice. So there's the chain 1, double crochet in the next stitch, then chain 1 again and double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're able to begin the repeat that begins with the asterisk in the written pattern. Our repeat is chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet all in the next stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Then chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch. And chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch. And that is our repeat that takes us almost all the rest of the way around. Chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch, then chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch twice. So I'll see you as we finish up round 4. So here's what it should look like at the end of round 4. Again, we want to make sure that we put a little chain 1 in there before we join to that first double crochet, but you should have a total of 24 double crochets at the end of round 4. Round 5 begins again with a chain of 4, and that third one counts as the top of our double crochet. Then we double crochet back in that first stitch, and chain 1. And now we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. So there's 1, chain 1 again, double crochet in the next stitch. So that's 2, and then chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch. So you'll remember in between our increases in the previous round, we had 2 individual double crochets. Now we've got 3. We're just continuing to expand our circle. So once again, the repeat for round 5 will be chain 1, then double crochet, chain 1 and double crochet all in the next stitch. So there's the double crochet, chain 1, and there's the double crochet back in that same stitch, and then chain 1 and double crochet in the next stitch 3 times. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now, if we stop for just a moment and take a look, you'll notice that our increases sort of stack up. That's something we want in this particular pattern. So you can see every time we have 2 stitches worked into 1 stitch, it's in this side of the previous increase. So that will help you know, always make sure rather that you're in the right spot as you continue around. So for round 5 here, we've got 3 individual stitches in between our increases. For round 6, there will be 4. And for round 7, there will be 5. It just continues to increase in pattern, always putting the increase on the one side of the increase of the previous round. So continue on around here, and I'll see you at the end of round 5. So this is what it should look like at the end of round 5 with a total of 30 double crochets. And here's what it should look like at the end of round 6 with a total of 36 double crochets. You can see here we've got an increase here and an increase here, and in between we've got 4 of those double crochets that are all on their own. Next, we'll do round 7 and make sure to have 5 of those double crochets in between each increase. And here we are at the end of round 7 with a total of 42 double crochets and 42 chain 1s. If we look here, you can see we've got our increase, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets that are all on their own before we increase again. So we've maintained that same stitch pattern. So now we're ready to move on to round 8, which is our edging round here for our mesh. It's very simple. Let me get this stitch marker on out of our way here. There we go. So for this round, we're simply going to chain 1 and then work 2 double crochets into each chain 1 space. So there's 1 and 2 into that first chain 1 space, and then we just jump to the next chain 1 space, skip right over the double crochets, and put 1 and then a second double crochet, or excuse me, a second single crochet in each of those chain 1 spaces. So you should have a total of 84 single crochets at the end of round 8 edging, and at that end of that edging, you can just go ahead and break your yarn, join or join and break, however you like to do it, and finish off. Then we'll be ready to add our wiggles. So here's what your mesh should look like after round 8. We just did 2 single crochets in each chain space and then joined at the end so that we've got a nice solid border. Now we're going to pull up some of those stitch markers. What we want to do is mark the 4th stitch after every increase in round 7. So remember, our border was round 8, so round 7 is that last round of double crochets. So we want to find an increase. We've got one right there. Doesn't matter which one you start with. Find one of those, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to go ahead and mark the front of that stitch using my stitch marker. There we go. So there should be one more before the next increase, so we know we're in the right spot. 1, 2, 3, 4. And put in another stitch marker. One more before the increase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Time for our next stitch marker. And that's how we continue all the way around until we've got all 6 in there. So let's go ahead. We've already got 3 done. Let's do the other 3. Increase, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Increase, or excuse me, one more, then increase, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this should be our last one. There we go. So now we've got all 6 stitch markers in there, and you can see we could draw a line in between each of those. This is where we're going to add that star or snowflake with our contrasting yarn. Now for our first line, we want to join with a double crochet at the top of a round 6 double crochet post below any marked stitch. So it doesn't matter which one you pick. We'll go ahead and let's just pick this one right here. We know we marked round 7 right there. So that's our round 7 double crochet post. So we come down to the one that it's worked into here in round 6. This right here is the stitch that we'll go ahead and join to first. So we can visually kind of make a mental note. That's where we're going. And now we want to bring up the yarn that we want to join with, because we're going to join with a double crochet, also known as a standing double crochet. So I'm going to hold on to my yarn with the 2 fingers of my non-hook hand here that I'm not using to hold my hook. And then I'm going to hold on to my hook and yarn over twice towards me, just as I would for a standard stitch. Then I'm simply going to come to that stitch. Remember, this is a stitch right here we're joining to. We're going to do it as a double crochet, but like as a post stitch. So we're going to come in away from us and go around, just like for a front post stitch, around that post, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. So that's our first one right there. Then we're going to make 2 more double crochets around that same post. I haven't dropped that tail yet. I'm going to hold on to it until I've made the next stitch. I'm going to yarn over, go right around that same post again. Just pop the hook up right on the other side, pull our loop around, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now I'll go ahead and drop that end. I know it's secure. Now we put 1 more double crochet around that same post. Just go right around it as so. So as you can see, we've worked 3 double crochets all around that post, going from the top of the post towards the bottom of the post. Because of course we were crocheting around in circles like this. And you can see how these all stand up nice and tall. Because we didn't start out with that first stitch anchored down anywhere, these are all going to stand up straight. So now what we want to do is work 3 double crochets around the post of the stitch in the row below 4 times. Well, what does that mean? If we stop and look at what we've got here, we worked around this post. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can follow a line down the next 4 rows. So we're going to work 3 double crochets around each of those posts. So what I like to do is really just kind of fold it up here so that those are all lined up sort of in a row right at the top. It's always a good idea to go back and double check and make sure you haven't gotten off track, but we can sort of fold our work here to make it easy. We're just going to go right to that next post and work 3 double crochets right around that one. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Then, if we want to come back, we can check and make sure, go to the next stitch, that the stitch we worked around was worked into. So that next one in line. 1, 2, and 3. So that's 2 of them. We've got 2 more rows here to go. So there's the next one. We can just fold our work right up and make it easy. 1, 2, and 3. So now if we look at it, we can see we've worked around the stitch from row 6, 5, 4, 3. Now we need to find the stitch from row 2. So this is where it can get important to just kind of pull your work back out, make sure you're landing in the right spot. This is the stitch we worked that stitch into, so we want to go to this one next. I'll just pull that to the top there. And we'll go 3 double crochets around this one. It's okay to, sort of tug on this yarn a little bit. It's a very strong yarn. We just want to take our time and make sure we get all 3 of those stitches right around there. There we are. And now what we're going to do is double crochet in the single crochet of the row below. So we want to stop again, and this one's kind of tricky. Find that single crochet that stitch is worked into. Now, This is really tricky. Getting around the post of the single crochet is really, really difficult. So what you can do is sort of cheat and just kind of go around this part of it right there. We're going to be working this essentially 6 times as we come across here. So you can just kind of go in there and make sure we use each one of them once. It'll make more sense as we go. So we work a double crochet right around that single crochet right there. Then we're going to skip over the magic circle and then continue on across, working towards the opposite stitch marker. So remember, we had 6 stitch markers. We've got this line done so far. We want to find the stitch marker opposite right here, and we can sort of trace this back. We've marked this one, so we know it's marked into this stitch, this stitch, this stitch, on down until we find that single crochet right there opposite. That's where we want to put our next double crochet. So we can go right in there, get around that single crochet as best you can, and work our double crochet there. So we've got that skip. We've jumped right over that magic circle, but we're not going to worry about it right now. Make sure we follow that line. We've did the single crochet, but let's make sure we work into the correct double crochet. It's going to be this one right here. Let me just double check that. Yep. This one right here is going to be the one if we follow the line down for that next stitch marker directly opposite. So we want to make, now that it's a double crochet, we want to make sure we work 3 double crochets around that post. So it really doesn't matter, what side you come from or anything, or which post you start with. You just want to do your best to work in that straight line all the way across here. So we've got one. Let's lay that out. Make sure we go to the correct one. There's the stitch worked into the one we just worked around. So now we know we're in the right spot there. And we're going to continue doing this all the way till we get, again, through round 6. So not the row with the stitch marker in it. We don't want to work around that row, row 7, just around round 6. We want to leave that outer round for our blue wiggles that will all join together here. So I'm just continuing to work my way up with 3 double crochets right around the post of each of those rows. Double check here, make sure we're still lined up well. We are, so we've got just a couple rows left here. I'm working around round 5 now. So there's our 3rd double crochet around the post of round 5. Put a little bit more yarn here. And then, as I say, we don't want to go into round 7 with the one with the stitch marker. We just want to stop at round 6. So here we are. We'll work our 3 double crochets right here. 1, 2, and 3. And then that's it for this line. Now we can go ahead, just double check it before we break our yarn. Make sure it's nice and straight there. Going all the way across from stitch marker to stitch marker. And we can go ahead and break our yarn. Now it can pull up on the mesh like this a little funny. Don't worry about it. Once we've got all the wiggles in there, they'll all sort of even themselves out a little bit here, especially with a little bit of time on the blocking board. So to finish that off, I just pull that tail end through our last stitch. And then when I weave in my ends, I will just send that down through that last stitch and weave it in on the back. So now we need to do the same thing with a small addition going across our other 2 lines. So we're going to just find our next one. It doesn't matter which one we want to pick. We can just go ahead and start with this one and do the same thing. It's the exact same thing until we get to the middle. When we get to the middle, we'll chain 1 and go over this and then do the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this line, and I'll see you when we get to the center there. So you can see I've started my 2nd line here. I joined to round 6 and did round 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I've got that 1 in round 1 right there. So now I've come to this line. What are we going to do? Very simple. We chain 1 and just jump right over it. Push it out of the way. Start again on the other side. We'll want to go ahead and find that single crochet that we want to work around here on the opposite side of round 1. I think I got 2 of them there. Don't want to do that. Want to leave one for the next round, or the next line, I should say. There we go. And then we just continue working our way up that other line towards the opposite stitch marker. So again, just 3 double crochets around each of those post stitches until we get through round 6. Then we do the same thing for our 3rd line. So here we finished our second line, and then our third line, of course, will go from our last set of stitch markers here from one to the other. Again, just chain one in the middle, push the others out of the way, and continue on across. Then you can weave in those ends, and then next we need to add in the fill-in wiggles, which are the blue wiggles that will fill in each one of these little pie pieces right here. So now we're going to fill in each one of these little wedges left in between our white lines. And for each one of these, we're going to do them exactly the same. And we start at that one double crochet right in the middle there, that one that is left behind in round 2. We're going to, again, join with our color, join with a standing double crochet. So again, I'm using the same color here that I used on my mesh. You could absolutely mix it up. Make each section a different color, use a different color from the mesh. You can definitely get creative with this portion of the pattern. So again, I'm just going to hold on to the tail end of my yarn here and yarn over twice. Then I'm going to find that double crochet there right in between my 2 white lines, or whatever color you used. And again, I just want to start, we're going right around that post. Now this time I'm going this way, I'm not going all the way across. I want to work up this wedge. So I'm going to start trying to kind of put that first double crochet at the bottom of the post and then work my way up this post. So we'll go right down there, get around there with our hook. And again, we can just fold the rest of our fabric out of the way, make it easy for yourself, whatever's easiest for your hands. So there's one. I'll make the second one. Then I'll drop that tail. I know I can weave it in later. And make a third one. There we are. Then what we're going to do, let me lay this out here a little bit, is we want to go ahead and jump to this next row. So we've worked up this post. Here's our next row of double crochets that need to be filled in with our wiggles. So we want to go ahead and start with this one. Just go, again, right from the bottom. Jump right on up to this row. Just like when we were working across with our lines. So there's 1, 2, and 3. But now we are starting our wiggles. So we don't want to just continue up this line. We want to come back to, let me lay this out here so we can see it, that other stitch there that remains in round 3. So we've gone up this post, so to speak, towards the outside of our project. Now we're going to go down this one. So we want to start at the top of this one and go down this one. So we're going to just turn our work all the way around. Make sure I don't get the tail there. I want to work with the right end of the yarn here. And we'll yarn over, and now we're going to go down this post right here. So we start at the top of the stitch and work our way down. Just go right around that one the same way. Always want to work as if they're front post stitches from the right side of the fabric, so all our wiggles stand up on this side. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now we filled in both the stitches from this row, so how are we going to jump over here when we're all the way down at the bottom? We just chain 1 and go for it. Chain 1, just like I did. Turn our work back around, and we're going to jump right on over to the bottom of this stitch and work 3 double crochets around it. So there's 1, 2, and 3. But we've got other stitches in this row. If we lay it out here, we can see there's 2 more stitches in this row. So we've gone up this post, which means we'll go down the next post. So we start at the top of that one. We just want to make sure every double crochet stitch that's left that hasn't been covered by a line is going to get covered by 3 double crochets here as we fill in our wedge. So there's that third one. We've gone down that post stitch, so that means we're going to need to go up the next one. It's in that same round or row there. So we just come right to that next one. You can see I'm moving my fabric back and forth. Always hold it in the way that's easiest for you and makes sense as you travel up and down these posts. So there's 2 and there's 3. All right, so let's take a little break here and look at what we've done so far. Lay it all out here, sort of tuck it in. You can see how that's really starting to wiggle around. So after we've covered those first 3 rows or sections there, we jump to the next row. Because we went up on this stitch, we can go right on up on this stitch, then down, then up, then down. Then we'll want to chain 1 again because we need to jump to the next row, and we went down on this one. So we go down on this one from the top to the bottom with 3 double crochets, chain 1, and jump to this one. Go up, then down, then up. Then for round 7, we're going to jump next to this marked stitch. So we go up this stitch with 3 stitches, and then we go down, down, and up, finishing with 3 stitches worked around this stitch right before the next marked stitch. So each wedge sort of fills in, up the wedge, and then across the top of the next one. So let's go ahead and make those stitches. So now I have finished one wedge section. We filled in between the white stripes here, jumped up to the marked stitch, and worked our way all the way across to the next marked stitch. Then I went ahead and broke my yarn and finished it off. So we would come back and of course have another white line going and do each of these wedges in turn. After doing each of those wedges, let's find one of those lines here. We worked our way up and then all the way across. So when we finish up, we want to take that last end here. We can see here's that final edge of our wiggle. We broke our yarn and just sew in to that top edge of the next wiggle here where it jumps up to that next marked stitch. This creates a really beautiful continuous line all the way around our trivet. So the last thing to do is add our hanger. So let's go ahead and add our hanger or topper to our ornament here. Again, we're going to be joining with a double crochet, so I'm going to set up my hand the same way here and use, of course, the color that I want to use for my topper and hanger. This row, we're going to work the entire row in the back loop only, and we're only going to be working into 10 stitches. So you can put those 10 stitches anywhere in that last round of the trivet there that you like. I like to kind of center it over. It's 10 stitches, so it's not exactly even, but, you know, just right around here so it's sort of centered over one of the lines is fine. So as I mentioned, we're going to be working into the back loop only, so you will need to look at your stitches. The loop of that V at the top of each stitch that's closest to you is the front loop. The one that's furthest away is the back loop. So for these 10 stitches here, for row 1 of our topper, we're going to be working under that back loop only. So let's go ahead and get our yarn here. I'm going to hold on to it and yarn over twice. And then we'll go ahead and just go right into that back loop of any double crochet. If you want to plot it out ahead of time, you can. We pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now that is joined. Then I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch. Again, I want to go under just that back loop only. There we are. Then half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. There we are. Then single crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. Again, working in the back loop only here. You can see that unused front loop in front of each of these stitches. Then half double crochet in the next 2. 1 and 2. And then finally double crochet in the next 2. Still staying in those back loops only. 1 and 2. There we are. So that is what it should look like at the end of row 1 of our topper or hanger. All the rest of those stitches, of course, are going to remain unworked. Row 2 is very simple. We're just going to chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, however you like to do it, and single crochet in each stitch across. So since there are 10 stitches, you should have 10 single crochets here at the end of row 2. Row 2 of worked, since we turned, is actually worked on the back side of the trivet, so you get a little peek of the back of the trivet there. And then we can turn and come back for row 3, which is the final row here of our pattern. We start again with a chain 1, and then we single crochet in the first 5 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to chain our hanging loop. I like to chain 14, but you can chain longer if you want a longer loop, or shorter if you want a shorter loop. Whatever length of loop works for you is totally fine. It's very arbitrary. I just thought 14 looked like a really nice length, and it suited the hanger and would fit, of course, most hooks. So let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 it looks like. So let's do 3 more. 12, 13, and 14. Now I can go ahead and make these chains tight. I'm not going to crochet back into them. So again, it's just whatever length gives you the length of loop that you like. Then we simply come back down, slip stitch in the last single crochet made. So since we're working into that single crochet we just made, we want to approach it from the side, still go under those top 2 loops of the stitch, but I'm going to do it from the side of the stitch here. Well, wrap my yarn around, kind of like if I were making a picot, and just slip stitch right in there. And that really holds down our loop nice and secure. Then I can just single crochet in each of those remaining 5 stitches across. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I can break my yarn and finish off my hanger. And that's how to crochet the Bauble Ornament Wiggle Trivet. I hope you've enjoyed this pattern, and I hope you've enjoyed learning more about wiggle crochet. It's a really fun technique for making great thick items. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.